All right, we're back. It is the Blitz Special Edition in Minnesota, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Final stop on the Sirius XM NFL Radio Training Camp Tour. Already had a chat with Kirk Cousins, the head coach Mike Zimmer, and our next conversation is with somebody that at times makes me uncomfortable, but I'm also excited about it. The general manager, Rick Spielman. Rick, it's always good to see you. You okay? You good?
Yeah, no, I'm doing fine.
Let me get the personal business out of the way first, because I'm just concerned. I saw you in Indianapolis, and you said specifically, my wife said if I draft a cornerback, I'm headed for divorce court. And you drafted a cornerback. Now, I know it wasn't in the first or second round, but how are things at home?
Things are working around as of now. The season hasn't started yet. So.
That's when
no, the next thing I got was, I know during the third round, I think we traded down 3 or 4 times. And she asked me, are you going to make a damn pick? I'm going to bed.
Couldn't even keep her involved long enough.
No, and then I go home and we make a trade for a kicker / punter / kickoff guy. And she goes, well, how many times are you going to draft one before you or use a pick on one?
Don't bury the lead. You did make a trade for a guy that obviously the Baltimore Ravens had no room for. I know Mike Zimmer said he can't do both. It's probably asking a lot for a guy who hasn't done either yet, but you went out and got him. What went into that deal, and were you concerned about the other teams that may have been interested in him, and how good has he looked for you?
No, he just got off the plane, so we saw him Tuesday end up doing punts and kickoffs, and then today he ended up doing field goals. So I think all we're trying to do is get the best guys in here and then kind of separate themselves once we get them in here and they get an opportunity to go out and compete. So we'll get a chance to see him in some game action Sunday night and then make our final determination as we go.
Well, that's the thing. Competition, it always finds a way to sort itself out, through training camp, preseason, all that. I don't want to see you guys even kick extra points or field goals. Score touchdowns, and with your defense, maybe you won't have to.
Well, we want to not go for 2 every time. We like to kick an extra point every now.
Bruce hasn't really figured out that after a touchdown, you can kick an extra point, Bruce.
Well, we got into the conversation the other day about –
That'll come. I mean, I know you haven't played and you're just new in football, but eventually you'll get it.
Listen, I had some bad memories in high school. Our kicker, he was a soccer guy, missed an extra point to go to the playoffs. So we talked about kickers the other day. I said, I'm just scoring touchdowns, so I'm not worrying about it. We're going to outscore the other team so much. But talk about, what
you
goes –
You sound like my brother.
Hey, just put the points up on the board. You have this veteran defense. They've been together for so long now. I mean, what goes into not only drafting these guys, but how far down the road do you continue to look to see how long you could keep a group together, how long you might have to move on?
Well, we've been pretty aggressive and it starts with our ownership and giving us the resources to keep this core together as long as we can. And our whole philosophy here is to try to draft well, to fit the schemes, to fit all the traits, not only on the field but off the field, that we want to build this team with under Coach Zimmer, and then extend those. Because when you can extend UFAs coming up from your own team, you already know those guys. You know what they can do. You know how they fit in the system, and you keep that continuity, which I think is very important. So, but we always plan out 3 years ahead. So we've already looked at our cap situation. Well, I know we got the CBA coming up, but we kind of know where we're at this year, what we did, and what we have to do next year. So we're always planning ahead to anticipate guys that are going to be coming up in their contract. How do we keep them, and how do we keep it fit? I know Rob Brzezinski, who does an outstanding job with a salary cap and with our contracts, and they call him Magic Rob because somehow he figures how to figure out Rob, we need to get this guy done. Well, let me figure it out. So I had him do my taxes this year, and it's the first time I got my tax return back, and I actually made more than my salary.
You got to be careful about those guys. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you're getting back the big tax break, and then all of a sudden the IRS is like, hey, guess what you owe.
Rob knows how to do all that.
He does not have.
He's a lawyer.
You talk about planning in advance, and I wonder, how much you plan on the possibility of losing a guy, which you almost did. Anthony Barr. It looked like for 24 hours he was going to be a New York Jet. I'd love to know how that worked out. But, before you enter free agency, are you considering, this is going to be difficult. He's going to get some great offers. We have to be prepared for his possibly moving on. But we also have to be prepared to put an offer on the table. If he doesn't want to, that will bring him back here.
Yeah, no, we tried to extend him last year and just couldn't come up with it, couldn't come to an agreement. And then I think what speaks about what we've built here and under Coach Zimmer and those guys in the locker room is we had Anthony come back for less money than he could have potentially made. Shamar Stephan, when we brought back from Seattle, he went there for a year, and as soon as we called him, he was very excited to get back. So I think when you're able to establish a culture like that, and the guys in the locker room love playing for Coach Zimmer and his coaching staff, but I think the most important thing, and not you, Bruce, but you, Bruce.
The quarterback, Bruce.
You're finally picking up on this. Yes, you've got to go broadcast the Bruce quarterback, Bruce.
The quarterback, Bruce. You know how important it is in that locker room for those guys to care for each other. And when you get that type of bond where guys want to stay because they want to play together, when you get out there on Sundays and you're playing, you got all the coaches and everything, but it comes down to guys wanting to play for each other. And we're pretty fortunate to have a good group of guys in that locker room that love each other and want to play for each other.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about. It's more than X's and O's most of the time. I mean, it's that camaraderie. That,
I have a hard time with that word.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I had
forgot.
That I had that written down as
forgot.
Tell me a little bit about the camaraderie on this football team, Rick.
But,
well, you know,
No, don't let him off the hook. Tell me about it.
Huh? Camaraderie?
Why
I've been practicing that all day.
And you're doing really well. You're almost there. Why is it such a challenge?
If you put it on Google and you do the British accent,
Yeah.
I almost sound like more British.
Yeah. This is one. Are you going to go home into the mirror and go camaraderie?
No,
Camaraderie. You can do it. I know you can do it.
Yeah, no, I'm just taking baby steps. I'm just getting the other issue that I have that I get chopped on all the time is, but this is because of my accent from Ohio, and you're from kind of that area, is Washington.
but you talked about, I mean, defensively it's there. Offensively, I feel like it could gel a little bit more better this year, and I think that's Gary Kubiak's system. And these guys coming together, Kirk Cousins' second year. What are you looking forward to going into that second season?
I think the one thing that we identified in Coach Zimmer was when Kevin Stefanski, the first hire we made was him as the offensive coordinator, and I think it speaks for itself that, you know, he came back for a second interview in Cleveland and almost had an opportunity to get that job. So I know he's an up-and-comer through the coaching ranks, but we had an opportunity to add Gary Kubiak and Rico Dennison and Kirk Kubiak and a couple of those other guys, or Clint Kubiak. He was all for it. He was the one waving a flag. Why wouldn't I want that at my age and me as a first-time offensive coordinator to have that type of experience and to learn from that and to bounce ideas off of, because that's only going to make Kevin Stefanski better. And that's rare because of, I think no one in this building really has an ego. Everybody just understands we all want to work together and want to try to win that championship.
You know, you talked about, you know, the draft, and it wasn't just your wife that went to sleep before you had another pick. Everybody fell asleep. So I want to talk about your top two. You know, there's something to be said for calm training camps. You know, nobody talking about helmets, nobody talking about feet, whatever it is. The biggest story that's come out of camp so far is the sweaty hands of your center.
Well, his hands aren't sweaty.
Well, the whole body is a little sweaty. And, you know, the funny thing is, it's not often you can bring up a story and have a guy you work with go, you know, I've experienced that. And Bruce was like,
we used to, so my rookie year in Tampa, you know, training camps in Orlando, John Wade was the center. His pants would be soaked. So halfway through practice, he'd change his pants. And in the games, he'd change his pants at halftime. So Bruce Murray was complaining about the
Bruce
the
Murray,
pants.
the broadcaster, right? Not Bruce Murray, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, talk about your first your two picks. You know, Bradbury, who obviously is going to anchor that offensive line in the middle. Irv Smith as the second pick as the tight end. Let's start with the first pick. How has that group looked, and how has he looked specifically?
I think when we kind of revamped that offensive line, I know from a personnel standpoint and a coaching standpoint, y'all have to be in sync and understand. We can tell you what the strengths and weaknesses are of players, but coaches tell us how he's going to be able to function in this offense or defensive scheme, and can he? And if he can't, even though he may be a good player in another scheme, we'll pass him by. But Bradbury was an ideal fit for this outside zone scheme and a lot of the play actions we're going to do. So when we got into our draft meetings and moving Elfline to left guard and getting a Josh Klein, and then Brian O'Neill, who's another very athletic former tight end that's an offensive tackle playing on the right side, they fit ideally what we're looking for, because if you look at our defense, you see our defensive ends all look the same. They're long and athletic. Our corners look the same. Our linebackers. So we understand the physical traits that we want and the skill set that needs to play. That's why we've been so consistently good under Coach Zim in defense. We haven't had that consistency on offense with all the coordinator changes, but coming in now, I think this was the first time truly everybody felt we were on the same page and what we were looking for, and I think that's going to pay off for us.
Yeah, talk a little bit about, we know Thielen's the guy, Stephon Diggs, what they do is remarkable on the football field. But this Chad Beebe, he's come along, and I see him making some plays today at practice.
Yeah, Chad is one of those guys. I think the one thing that we try to do is we always try to find talent no matter where it's at. And, Adam Thielen was a tryout guy. We signed him, and he became Adam Thielen. Our starting fullback, C.J. Ham, was a halfback or a running back from a small school, and he came in for a tryout. Now he's been our starting fullback. And then Chad Beebe was the same success story so far. Is he came in, no one signed him after the draft. So we have about 40 or 50 players that we invite to come into our rookie mini camp with our college free agents and the draft picks, and we try to find one or two guys out of there every year that we want to sign. And then, we've been very fortunate to find guys like that actually come in and contribute and help us win games.
Well, I think it's amazing. I mean, you talk about your wide receivers, Thielen.
Is this how Bruce, the quarterback, got in on this gig?
Yeah, exactly. Just a
tryout guy. And, hey, he's pretty good on the radio. Let's give him a shot.
Just showed up one day, and we couldn't get rid of him.
And Murray's been trying to cut me ever since.
It's not working, no matter what I do. But Stephon Diggs was, a fifth-round pick?
Fifth-round pick.
It's not like, they were high investments, but there is Laquon Treadwell. Now, I'm using the quotes, Rick. There are sources that say you're shopping Laquon Treadwell. There are stories that he may be on the trading block.
Right.
Of course, as a professional broadcaster, I'm obligated to ask you, is Laquon Treadwell on the trading block?
We have not had any discussions with Laquon Treadwell or trading Laquon Treadwell. So a lot of things are reported this time of year. It's kind of like the draft a little bit. There's a lot of stuff out there, and what's true and what's not true, you don't know. So, but, a lot of teams are talking right now. I know we talked to every team. I got 3 calls yesterday. Where you heavy, where you light, what guys may potentially be available, what guys aren't. So you go through those conversations, but it's a lot of general conversation. So sometimes some of that can go and catch fire, and then the media type take it to another level.
Media type. Not you. That's not you.
No, that's Bruce.
That's
media
me.
type.
That's me, exactly.
Yeah, I don't like putting him in that position, Especially, look at those biceps, man.
Believe me.
Rick, I need to get on your program a little bit.
Well, stay off his.
But now that's just not necessary, is it? I mean,
Murray was talking about. He was talking about he doesn't like the weight room. So we walked through.
Really? That comes as a shock to him, doesn't it?
Well, talk about this beautiful facility, though. I've been through many, teams and organizations.
Oh no, play.
But I mean, this place is beautiful here.
Yeah, no. Our ownership and the Will family and what they provide us from a research standpoint, from having one of the top, if not the top, stadiums in the world, and then you come here to this facility, and what do you need? So we put a lot of time and effort into designing this building to make it the best I know for sure in the country. I know it's the best in the NFL. And all the amenities. See, I can say that word.
Oh, nicely done.
I've been practicing
camaraderie
that one.
and amenities, yeah.
So when you do have training camp here, one of the things is recovery. And with the sports science and all the amenities we have in there, the players seem to recover faster and be able to get on the field quicker.
You talk about the facilities that you put together and what you provided the players. Bruce a little upset, by the way, when he was walking through and saw those, the granola machines, and it said players and staff only. And he thought, am I still
coaching
a player?
Staff, yeah.
Right, coaching, right.
Like
Players
Bob Hagan cannot have a granola.
Players and coaching staff. And Bruce was thinking, am I still a player? Can I go over and take that? One player I wanted to ask specifically about, we saw Mike Hughes working out, obviously still recovering from the injury. What's the plan with him?
We'll continue to keep rehabbing him. We'll probably make that final decision somewhere in that last preseason week and determine where he's at. I know he's working extremely hard. When you watch him working out here, I mean, it's hard to see. But he had a significant injury. People thought it was just an ACL. It was a lot more than an ACL. So it's usually a 10, 11th month injury.
Packers spy plane flying over right now, by the way, in case you're wondering.
Great.
You needed to put this place right in the flight path of the airport. Is that what you wanted to create noise for the team?
Yeah, no, it's great because Zim runs all these cords out here with all these giant speakers, but we get a lot of it from the flight path.
But one decision that you have to make is, PUP or not. If PUP, then you miss 6 weeks to start, and you may miss 2, but it's worth taking that chance.
The biggest
what
thing,
goes into that?
yeah, no, just like we did with Pat Elflein last year.
Right.
Okay, he wasn't ready. I think he came back week 4.
Right.
So we knew he was going to be ready before that 6-week period. So you keep those guys on the 53, and then when they're ready, you can activate them as soon as they're ready. But as soon as you put them on that PUP list at the 53 cut down, then they're dead for 6 weeks before you can start activating.
And how difficult is it going from this period where you have all these guys on a roster to shorten it down, getting to a 53-man roster? And also, if the NFL ever does expand to 18 games, what could you see would be a nice number to have an active roster at?
Oh my God, that's I couldn't tell you that part yet. 150.
I thought you're thinking 3 years
college.
ahead.
Yeah. Geez, where teams with the 53 and just getting 46 up sometimes towards the end of the season with a 16 game schedule can be difficult. But that's probably the most difficult part of the job, is because when we just had a meeting, we've had 3 or 4 meetings already, and each week we kind of, who's on the team, who's on the bubble, do we need to get more looks at this guy? So there'll be some guys we're targeting this next preseason game to get them in situations to see, are they practice squad guys, are they 53 guys, are they guys that we're just going to release? So a lot of times in these games, it's a favorite time for personnel people, because we're watching all the games that come in now. We're watching everybody's so-called bubble players, and if they're going to come available, and do we claim them? And all of a sudden, there's a guy that thinks he made the roster, and then 12 hours later you claim a guy, and it's a domino effect. So, but it's very difficult to make those decisions. Probably the hardest part of this entire job is to make those final calls on these guys, because they've been here. They've been busting their rear end to try to make this team. But if they're good enough, they're going to get another opportunity. I think you got 23 opportunities.
Yeah.
Still working on another.
I know we tried to call him at one point. I couldn't remember through the 18 teams he went through.
Now you can put him on your coaching staff, by the way. He wants to get into coaching.
Hey.
I'll be an advocate for him.
Yeah, I know, but I can't afford it right now.
You can. Last thing, you talk about the decisions, and you may not want to answer this, but strategically, you've got 2 kickers. It's a competition. But there may be a team in the division that's looking to upgrade themselves at the kicking position.
Rumors from Bruce, the media people.
Right. This is just a rumor. This is what I've heard through some reports. I mean, when there are teams that you may be playing twice in a year that need somebody that may be on your roster, do you hold them a little longer, hoping it makes it tougher for them to pick them up?
If teams want them, they'll wait. I mean, eventually you got to make a move. You can only have 53 guys, or
carry 2 kickers for the whole season.
2 kickers and a punter and 2
exactly.
longs.
That would be a good roster.
Zim, okay, we got 46. Well, 45 of them are going to be specialists.
Right, exactly.
But that's also where you can explore some trades. So you want to make sure that someone in a division doesn't get them. Then you go ahead and try to trade them outside the division if you can, and then outside the conference.
All right, how'd we do? We okay? We're good?
Yeah,
we're done.
We're fine.
We're done.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. We got to get you out of here.
That's it.
We had enough time for you, right?
Yeah, that was fine. Yeah. 4:47.
I was told to let you go at 4:47. It says it right there on that card. Rick Spielman's the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings. Always love spending some time with him. Best of luck, Rick. Great seeing you. You can say goodbye now. I know your phone's ringing.
It's 4:47.
Say goodbye.
I told him
Say
to call me
goodbye.
at
That's how we go to break.
Thank you, Bruce and Bruce.
We'll be back right after this.